breathing in and breathing out again, letting your shoulders drop. Breathing in and breathing out again, just letting your shoulders drop and relax. Breathing in and breathing out again. Welcome. Today I'm going to give a talk about the basics of the Four Noble Truths. I was going to just talk about the first Noble Truth today, but I thought, oh, I might as well just give a basic outline of the Four Noble Truths. Now, I am in my garden. As you can see behind me, there is a standing stone. Now, it's quite a good teachings about the Buddhist teachings of the Four Noble Truths, because recently we found out this is probably an old Saxon cross, and just seeing how things change. And this is a really key teaching in Buddhism about impermanence, and in the Pali it's called anicca. Everything changes. So there are essentially 4 basic steps, and the teachings I'll be giving today will be aligning with the teachings of Ajahn Sumedho, Lungpo Sumedho, who is a Buddhist monk, a Western Buddhist monk in the Thai forest tradition. Now there's quite a lot of midges in here, so if I move my hands, that's because I'm stopping myself from getting bitten. So that's a really good place to start. The first noble truth is that there is suffering, which is the Pali word dukkha. Different people translate it differently. Ajahn Sumedho translates it mainly as suffering. Other people say it's like unsatisfactory. It is unhappiness. Essentially, a suffering. So it's really good being here around with these midges. It's like, oh yeah, there is suffering, and if I get attached to that they shouldn't be here, I'm suffering, I'm being bitten, then the Buddha would say, or Ajahn Sumedho would say, I'm not understanding the first noble truth, that it's just the nature of reality, that there is suffering, that there is discomfort, another word for dukkha, discomfort. So the way Ajahn Sumedho puts it is that instead of saying I suffer, or the world suffers, or he suffers, it's coming back to just there is suffering, and it's like this letting go, this this is the way it is. And Ajahn Sumedho often talks about this, that when things are unsatisfactory, he'll say, this is just the way it is, rather than getting attached that it shouldn't be this way. There shouldn't be midges in the garden at this time of the morning. It shouldn't be this way. And it's like, it is. And once I let go of it, and, feel into what I'm feeling, I can then move on. I can then truly be present. So this is the first noble truth, that there is suffering. So in your own life, if you find that if you're getting attached to things being different from the way they are, just say, there is suffering. It's not getting lost in the fact that that's all there is. No, the whole point of the Four Noble Truths is, there is suffering, there is a cause of suffering, there is an end of suffering, and then there is a path out of suffering. So this one here shows us how to get out and to release this attachment to suffering. So that is the first noble truth, that there is suffering. So the second noble truth is that there is a cause of suffering, that the Buddha first realized when he went forth, when he first saw old age, sickness and death, and then he saw a samana, a monk, walking, and realizing that there was a cause for this suffering, for this attachment to the unsatisfactory way of life. And what he came across, what he understood, was that the second noble truth, the cause of suffering is tanha. It's a Pali word, craving. So it's this craving for, for desire. So it's like, in the Western world, we feel that we will become happy when we have this belonging. Oh, when I get this new car, I'll be happy. And we really crave these things, and we have an imbalance at the moment. We feel that by having these things, that we will become happy. And, in Buddhism, they talk about different levels of happiness, and that type of happiness where we're gratifying our sense desires is the lowest form of happiness. It is a form of happiness, but it's, it doesn't bring us much happiness. It's very transitory. It is very impermanent. So, this first thing about this, the cause of suffering is, tanha, craving. Noticing when things are coming up in our lives that we have this craving. Craving for it either to be otherwise, for things to be different, or we're craving for these items, these belongings. And the second noble truth in my understanding, the basic understanding, is that it's just to notice it. Okay, I'm craving. And certainly the Thai forest tradition, a lot of it's coming back into our heart spaces, which I think is wonderful. And this is what really drew to me to the Thai forest tradition. And the teachings of Ajahn Chah, and Ajahn Man, and Ajahn Mahabor, is coming back to our heart spaces. Feeling. So rather than saying it is wrong to crave, no, they're not saying that. That's not what the Buddha's talking about. It's just acknowledging, what does it feel like to crave? Rather than acting upon this craving, just to feel into it. So the next time you're in the shops and you feel this craving, I've got to have this, and you're pushing your way to the front of the line, and I've got to have this, and you're hurting other people in order to fulfill your desire. It's like, just watch that feeling. I really want to push in here. I really want to get angry. I crave for things to be otherwise. I crave to get my way. Just be with it. And breathing, And if it's too intense, then walk the other way. But, learning to bring mindfulness, which is bringing presence, bringing awareness that this is how it is. Non-judgment, It's okay to suffer. It's okay to feel craving. So that's really the second noble truth, is that there is a cause for this suffering. There is a cause, and it's our craving. The third noble truth is that there is an end to this suffering, that there is an end to the cause of suffering. And what Ajahn Sumedho talks about, he says that it's to do with impermanence, to see that everything is transitory, everything arises and everything ceases. Now, I believe it was one of the 5 ascetics that the Buddha first gave this teaching to, the 5 ascetics that he lived with when he left the life as a prince in, I believe it was Lumbini, when he was the prince and of the Sakyan clan. He went and he spent many years in forests with 5 ascetics. When he first became enlightened, he gave more or less his first teaching in the deer park to these 5 ascetics that he'd lived with before. And I think it was Kondana, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, Kondana, who really understood that third noble truth about that everything that arises ceases, the impermanence of life. And I believe, my understanding from what Ajahn Sumedho said, is this is when he woke up. He was like the first person to become enlightened because of the Buddha's teachings. So again, it's quite simple, this third noble truth. It's simple that this end of suffering, this end of the cause, the end of our craving, is just to see that it's impermanent. So going back to the example that we're in a shop, when we hold that space, when we watch it rather than reacting or acting upon our impulses, is that we see that it's impermanent. And if you're used to having really intense spaces, really intense times, when you really feel happy, it's really to remind yourself that this too will pass, that everything changes. And it's much easier to remind ourselves when it's really good that this too will pass, and if we really train ourselves when it is good that, this is transitory, this feels like this. It's not to deny it. I think some people with the Buddhist teachings, they feel that it's a bad thing, or they're saying that suffering is, the world just suffers and it's negative. It's totally the opposite. It's letting go of all of this and achieving and getting into a real space of love and joy, into happiness, because we're seeing this impermanence, we're seeing the way it is, that I suffer. And I think that's really powerful. I see a lot of people in the West deny their suffering. They deny that they've had challenges in life. But as soon as you start to open that, a few days ago I posted a video about boarding school, about my own suffering, what it was like to suffer. And when I do that, when I open myself up to being vulnerable, to being, to pain, to saying, yeah, I suffer, I have suffered, then others then feel safe. They feel that it's okay for them to suffer, and a lot of people do. But we're told, no, there's something wrong with you. The adverts show that you should be happy. If you get this, you'll be happy. And it's not truth. And this was what the Buddha was bringing us back into, the truth of, I suffer. And I can feel myself, as I record this, I can feel that, I can feel my own suffering around midges, about being bitten. So just holding that space that, I find that unpleasant. And one day there will be midges, one day there won't be midges. So the impermanence, that's really the third one of the third noble truth is, there is an end to suffering, and it's to do with impermanence. That's seeing things as impermanent, which is anicca in the Pali, anicca. So the fourth noble truth is the pathway out of suffering. And I do love this part. And there's a brilliant book by Bhante Henepula Gunaratna, who's also a Theravadan Buddhist, not with the Thai forest tradition, but with the Sri Lankan the Sri Lankan side, which is also Theravadan along with Thai. and it's a very wise book called the Eight Steps to Happiness, I believe. The 8 Buddhist Steps to Happiness. But it's just a beautiful book, really heart-centered. And I remember reading it in the monastery that I used to live in, Buddhist monastery, and it was just beautiful, beautiful. So I have written these down because I cannot always remember what the 8 steps. So it's an 8-fold path, the fourth noble truth. The first one is right understanding. The second one is right thought, intention. The third part of the fourth noble truth is right speech. The fourth one is right action. Fifth is right livelihood. The sixth is right effort. Seventh is right mindfulness. And the 8th is right concentration. You could, Bhante Gunaratana, he's written a whole book about those 8 steps. And one thing I will really share with you, which I really got, I made a visit back to the monastery I used to live in a few weeks ago, and I see that what these 8-fold path is really teaching us, what the Buddha was really teaching us, is to do with skillfulness. You can say right understanding, you could also say skillful understanding. Some people translate it that way. Some of the videos that I've put on YouTube are about meditation, about meditating, and it's something I've not necessarily focused on as much, and it's something I really got my last visit in the monastery, is to do with morality. What the Buddha taught was primarily about morality. So he said, in order for us to be able to meditate, we will first have to still the mind. He said, in order to still the mind, we have to be living an upright life. We need to be living a skillful life. This is what the 8-fold path is about. He's saying that until we start to live by the 5 precepts that we have in Buddhism, or the 8 precepts, it is very difficult to attain deep states of meditation. Because when we're meditating, we're worrying about, the third noble truth, the third part of the 8-fold path, the fourth noble truth, about right speech. What did I say? Oh, I was gossiping about this person, or I killed an animal today, or we have this worry, this churning. Therefore, it's very difficult for us to just still. And I remember when I first moved into the monastery and I started living by the 8 precepts, I just felt so at ease. I didn't have to worry about anything. I was no longer just taking things without asking. Oh, I'm busy, I'll just borrow this stapler, or I'll just borrow these post-it notes from my office. No, it was much different. I thought, I've asked. Is it possible for me to take this? No, it's not. It's not appropriate. So, okay. Or yes, it is. Rather than my heart just deciding, oh, it's fine. So the fourth noble truth is a lot about morality. It's about living an honourable life. So, not killing, not stealing, being mindful with our speech, being mindful in relationships, so sexually, no sexual misconduct, and also mindful around alcohol and drugs. When we have those in place, and then our practice deepens, and our attachment to the first noble truth about suffering, our attachment to suffering lessens. And when that happens, when we get that morality, that we start to pay attention to our actions, and we start to Notice, oh, this is what I'm doing. No judgment again, like I said, just noticing this craving. And then, yeah, starting to become more aware of the five precepts. Then this stillness arrives in our life. And our meditation practice just really deepens, and we can take this meditation into life. Things are happening and it's like I'm not drawn in. People are angry around me, or not doing what I want. It's like, that's okay. I'm not going to get drawn in. It's just the way it is. The world suffers. There is suffering. There is joy as well. And I let go of that too. So just to reiterate, so the first noble truth, there is suffering, dukkha. Second noble truth, there is a cause to suffering, which is tanha, craving. The third noble truth is that there is an end to this cause of suffering, which is anicca, that everything is impermanent. And then you have the fourth noble truth, which is the eightfold path, which is right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, and right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So, yeah, so that is a basic layman's term definition of what the Buddha's eightfold path and the Four Noble Truths is. So, yeah, but take it forth, see what you make of it in life, and yeah, you're doing amazingly well. You are, and thank you so much for sharing and coming and listening to this today. So, may you be well, may you be well.